Hi, I'm Mark Moses. I am here in Paris, and I'm very happy to be interviewed right now by FrConventions. Well, when I first read the script, we didn't know exactly where Paul Young was going. But one thing I love, the image that I love the most from the pilot of the show, was Paul Young in the pool, digging up the pool with a pickaxe in his pajamas. That image to me sort of set the world of what Paul Young had. And you knew he had a secret. And so really as an actor, playing if you have a secret is always interesting. Like when you're keeping something back from your audience or in life, it's always interesting as you bring something. If you tell everyone everything, it's not as interesting. So that moment when I read it, I thought, this is going to be a great character. I think people felt differently about Paul. Oftentimes they were empathetic, and oftentimes they hated him, and oftentimes he was creepy, or whatever he had. People had different feelings about him, but I think that the writers and Mark Cherry did a wonderful job in keeping that balance so that you cared about the empathy he had for his family, and yet you knew he was doing bad things. So he'd often go back and forth, and that was the fine line that I think established the character and made him interesting, as opposed to just disliking him or loving him, like some characters did, just loved Eva. She's always funny. No matter what she did, you sort of loved her. But Paul had grayer areas in that. And in the context of Desperate Housewives, he had the mystery, the initial mystery. And that's what kept a lot of people involved, just to find out what was in the box. Initially, when Paul Young started the series, Mary Alice, as you know, had killed herself. So Paul Young's feelings about Mary Alice were very conflicted. As if when someone in your life leaves you, you feel conflicted. And a lot of it, he was angry about everything they'd been through and that she had committed suicide for what she had done. So there were very mixed emotions about it. But then we had our son, who's here today, Cody, who plays Zach. And that made it even more complicated because my relationship with Zach was one of the reasons my wife killed herself. So the family dynamic was kind of complicated and screwed up from the start. And she leaves my life, and then I'm left with a son that created her demise and created the love that we had for our family. But the whole thing exploded, and now I'm left with nothing. So that was some of the dilemmas for Paul Young. And very interesting way to play it. And how does he proceed with his life? How does he proceed with his life? And eventually he finds out that the neighbor had blackmailed her. And then he commits his first crime. And then things just get darker, I suppose. Oftentimes in any series, whether it was Desperate Housewives or Mad Men or Homeland or any of the shows that I've done, oftentimes the writers don't exactly know where it's going. They say they do, but it changes. And so it changes for you. So by the time we got to the flashback scenes when we were a family, we knew something about the background. But I don't think we knew everything, nor did the audience. And because at the time, I love shows that come on once a week, because you can stand around the water cooler and discuss them. By the time we got to the actual secret of it, some of us, we didn't really know what the secret was. We knew there were things going on with Zach and with our son, but we weren't quite sure where it was going. So as an actor, you sort of take these things one step at a time, just as if you would do in life. And that's really the trick about playing Paul Young and being part of this show. It was interesting. He came back and he really had a vendetta against not only the people he felt hurt her, but also the entire community, because he felt like he was betrayed by them. I'm sure that while he was in prison, he didn't have a lot of good thoughts about it. But coming back, for me as an actor, was wonderful because the cast was great. I loved being on it. And for me, it just set up a lot of new challenges. He gets married again. Of course, he doesn't know he's being duped. And once again, he's being duped. He's being fooled, and he tries to fool them, and they fool him. And then he thinks Edie is a victim, and he hires someone to possibly kill. I mean, it just gets so complicated, and I never knew where it was going. But it was great to come back and play and bring Paul Young back to Wisteria Lane. Kind of friends, slightly intimate. It was interesting because I think that he found that Susan had more sympathy for him than most of the rest of Wisteria Lane. And I thought our relationship was really fun in certain ways. We had some funny scenes. We had some interesting scenes. And she seemed to know a little more about Paul Young than the other women and had some empathy for him. So I think that's why we had scenes together. But it was fun. I had a fun time with Teri. I think I knew where it was going, yes, at the time. I didn't know how it would end. But Emily Burgle came on and did a wonderful job as my wife. And it was interesting to see Paul sort of come out of prison and actually get married again and try again. And then maybe try to be a good person again. And then he gets betrayed. And, so it was a very interesting season for me. I enjoyed coming back from that, from Mad Men. So it was interesting to go full circle and come back. It's great to come back to a character once you've established them, because then you have a whole history that you can use as you move forward. It's been so much fun. Because all of us are all over the place. I moved to New York, and Doug's in Los Angeles, and I think Jamie's back in Los Angeles, but he was in Minnesota. And I haven't seen Marcia in a long time. And Marcia and I knew each other before Desperate Housewives. We did a Shakespeare play called Two Gentlemen of Verona down at the Old Globe. So seeing a lot of these people is great. I haven't seen Cody in years, and he's very happy now. And it's great to see people, the youngsters grown up. Andrea, she's lovely. And so it's great to see how they've grown up and become adults. And they probably look at us and I don't know what they think. They must think, boy, they're getting old. You don't always know where the show is, where it's showing, where they're airing the show. But I did know that in France, it was airing in France. Because I met so many French people who were so kind and flattering about how they watched the show and loved the show. And sometimes I'd be in Sri Lanka one time, and a busload of girls got off that were big Desperate Housewives fans. So I knew that it was being shown in France, and it's been wonderful here. The fans are lovely. It would be interesting on a project like that. I think they are actually doing some kind of spin-off. Kerry Washington, I think, is doing a show that's similar to Desperate Housewives, but it won't have us in it. If they did something like this, it might be like trying to get a band back together that doesn't necessarily want to be back together. I think there's some water under the bridge that has gone on with our show. So I don't know if they could actually do it. I think it would be fun. I'm sure the guys think it'd be fun. But then again, the show is not called Desperate Husbands. It was called Desperate Housewives. It could be Desperate Divorced Husbands. It could be another comedy. It was wonderful. I mean, I was sad that I had to leave such a big hit after the second year, and I would come back occasionally. But if I hadn't left that show, I wouldn't have been able to do Mad Men. And Mad Men was a big game changer for me. It was incredibly challenging and incredibly rewarding because my father was a Mad Men in New York. in the 50s. And so I had a lot to draw from. He was an ad man, just like my character was. And a lot of what my dad went through was in the script. Oftentimes Matt would ask me questions. So doing Mad Men was a real departure for me, just in terms of everything about the way it was shot, what they wanted from it. The different writers, Matt Weiner and Mark Sherry, very different people, and they both wanted different things. So it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as they say. And it was really nice to be able to step aside and have another job in Los Angeles. It was interesting. You know, we started off on a fledgling channel, and the reason the show is so popular, which doesn't happen today, with the DVD box sets. That's what, nobody has those anymore. So it took off then, and then it became, and now, just like Desperate Housewives, it's rerunning again. Right now it's streaming in the United States. So I'm meeting people your age that go, oh, I just watched Mad Men for the first time. And they seem to love it. So both shows were wonderful for me, and I was able to stay with my family because both shows shot in Los Angeles. So that was a blessing.